Good morning, or if you're watching the replay, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is for you. And great to see you today. Now, what I want to talk about today is Zoom fatigue. How many of you are experiencing a little bit of Zoom fatigue these days? Yeah, so that's what I'm going to chat about today. So welcome to the Daily Present. Okay, technology issues. The video eventually worked. So welcome to the Daily Present. Today I'm talking about Zoom fatigue because I'm hearing a lot of people telling me they've got Zoom fatigue right now, which is unsurprising because we've probably never spent more time in online meetings if you're working than before. Now, for me, it wasn't a big transition to moving to my work online because my work primarily has been online for at least 10 years in the most part, with some live and in-person workshops, presentations, and the likes. But mostly I've been coaching, training with clients around the world using tools like Zoom and Skype. And so, Zoom fatigue isn't something that's really happened to me or haven't much of an awareness of it. It's just normality for me. And perhaps that's the thing of like, well, until this becomes more normal for people, more how people are used to working, that perhaps they're going to feel that. But I also think one of the things is you don't get Zoom fatigue if the presentations or what meetings you're in are actually interesting. And probably that's the bigger issue for most people. Maybe you want to certainly it's good to spend some time stepping away from your computer screen and not spending too much time online. I know yesterday I probably devoured up a bit too much screen time checking out Clubhouse, which I'm still looking into. It's fascinating, and there's some really good things about it, and there's some really not good things about it, but I'm still checking it out, and I haven't fully made up my mind whether I think it's a good thing or not, but it's something I'll probably come back to and discuss a bit further on down the line. But Zoom fatigue. So if you're having interesting conversations with people, or if you're having good meetings that are actually productive and useful and aren't full of claptrap things that really don't need to be said, and people just kind of talking because they like the sound of their own voice or because they feel they need to say something rather than actually saying anything that's helpful, useful, interesting, or the likes, then yeah, going to get Zoom fatigue and it's going to be really dull. I think some of the Zoom meetings I've done, especially when people were just starting to get into doing this, we're going through every single person, like in a networking meeting, introducing themselves. And so, even though it was said, please take like a minute and a half to introduce yourself. There's always those people who are like, I didn't hear a minute and a half. I'm just going to rattle on for 5 or 10 minutes until somebody makes me shut up. And that gets tedious. And everyone else is probably sat there thinking, please shut up. We told a minute and a half, and here you are still talking. That kind of stuff is what's giving people Zoom fatigue as well. So, people just not respecting that you have to be more engaging online. Now, I think this is a good thing in many ways. I see many people moving to doing more online work, online courses, online coaching. Let's say this is the area I've been in for a long time anyway, so it's not a new area to me. I didn't have to pivot my business like many other people were doing last year. I was already in that environment. And so one of the things that I've found from that is watching other people do this. Let me share with you. When I very first started doing online group coaching, I was getting trained by some professionals. I was being trained by Harv Eker and his partner, Michelle. People who really know what they're doing. So if you don't know who Harv Eker is, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, check out the book. It is amazing. You don't see Harv too active these days. He's sort of semi-retired, moving to Hawaii now, I think, if he hasn't already. But still a really great guy and a professional presenter who really is truly engaging. So when I first got on camera, when we were being trained and told to go through this stuff, the feedback that ended up coming back to me was super harsh. Like really super harsh, not in a sort of put me down kind of way, but just this has to be more. There has to be more energy. There has to be more life to what you're doing. You have to bring the energy. You can't just be you normally as you are once you're presenting to somebody. Now, this is just as true if you're on a platform, right? I mean, if you're on a live stage and in an event, if you're just kind of talking normally, that the conversational element of presenting is important, but it's not a chat at the pub. And if you're generally quite a relaxed and calm person, which I am, I'm pretty laid back. People who know me will know this, and so it's really easy to become a bit too relaxed and to sound boring. And that's what I see a lot of, even from people who have really, really good content, that they're just there's low energy. There's God, it sounds like Trump, doesn't it? But it's low energy, and is just not engaging enough to get people to watch and listen in. Like even with this is there's a limit to what we can really do. It can have some levels of interactivity and stuff on here for sure, but realistically, there is a limit to what we can do. So we end up with a situation of, well, I have to do my best to hopefully be talking about something interesting and keep you engaged that way, because I can't be walking around here like I might be on a stage. I can't be doing too much physicality or gestures, as you will often see in live presentations, because it just doesn't fit into this box that we have to work with when we're on screen. So what can you do instead? You have to turn up the energy. Now, you know what? I was watching this, and I'm not going to name names. I'm not looking to name or shame anyone, but I was watching some guys who have really good content, who are doing online courses and teaching online presentation stuff. And what they're saying is fine, and they look great on the screen. They got their positioning in the window right. They've got great background. Everything looks as it should, and the words are right. What was missing? The punchiness, the vocal variety, as Toastmasters will often you'll hear people criticize about what no real vocal variety. It's flat. It's just kind of dull, and there's not much energy. And I know people say when you come onto camera, and so everyone talks about, be authentic, be you. Like, yeah, be you, but you still have to turn that up. It's like that advice they give on those talent shows. Simon Cowell or someone would say, be you, but be more you. It's like, it doesn't always be you, but be more you. How do you do that? I think what that means is you have to turn it up. You have to bring a bit of personality and a bit of charisma to what you're doing. It can't just be flat. It's you have to have some emotion in what you're talking about as well. It's I see too much emotion missing, and maybe some of that is people's nervousness about presenting and being on the camera, but maybe some of it is like they're reading from something that they've prepared, or they're trying to remember what they've prepared. All these sorts of things that can affect you, whether you're on camera or whether you're doing live presentation, that can make you sound a bit flat. If you're spending too much time thinking about what you're saying or having to say or how you're saying it, you don't really have the time to put in the energy to it as well. One thing, it often gets said that, and I think it was Maya Angelou who said this, but it may have come from other sources as well. People won't always remember what you say, but they will remember how you made them feel. And that means there has to be some emotional element to what gets delivered. It can't just be rambling on. It can't just be that you're not interested or excited or seemingly interested or excited about what you're actually talking about. So from my perspective, it can't be either an overload of energy. You don't want to go too high with that, but it certainly can't be too low either, because people will switch off. When I was a kid back at home, and I know this is still around, the Open University and stuff, but on certain times of day on TV, if it was off sick or something like that, maybe would catch or flick through channels to the Open University. And certainly can't say everyone was like this, but a lot of the presentations and lectures you would sometimes see there would be a bit flat, would be a little bit dull and boring. And you have to work really hard yourself as an audience member. And if it's an area that you're interested in or something you want to know about, you have to push through the yawn factor. and stay interested and stay alert as best you can. If the way the presentation and information is being delivered isn't interesting or exciting or engaging in some way, then that's really what I see missing. And I think that's really where most people are having Zoom fatigue these days. So if you think that's true, if you're watching live, watching the replay, tell me in the comments, do you have Zoom fatigue? Does some of what I'm saying here about the what's actually being on the camera, what you're seeing and what you're hearing from people, is more the problem than just the amount of Zoom meetings that you may have to have? So I'd like to know that from you. What do you think is the cause of Zoom fatigue? Because I only have my perspective. I'd certainly be interested to know other people's as well. So I mentioned about being trained in doing online training and speaking. And I'm being trained by some people who really knew what they were doing. And I know I'll say this with you as well. I even got like feedback that if you can't do this, we will have to find someone else who can. That's how important it is. And that was, whilst that was like tough criticism, it wasn't like super negative. But it did light a fire under my backside of like, all right, you really have to work on this because this is important. It was something I really wanted to do. And something at the time, I don't think so many people were doing it, and certainly not so many people were doing it well enough to keep people engaged online for any length of time. So I committed myself to working super hard on it. I had a great email today. Now on my podcast a little while back, I had a former world champion in the public speaking, World Championship of Public Speaking, the 2001 world champion, Darren LaCroix, came on my show, which was wonderful to speak to him. I've learned a lot from Darren. I've been on some of his courses and programs, and he's a great teacher. And if you haven't ever seen his winning speech from the World Championship of Public Speaking, you may even be asking me, what is the World Championship of Public Speaking? It's a Toastmasters event. I know lots of people outside of Toastmasters may never have heard of it. But Toastmasters is a public speaking organization. I'm a member. I love it. I'm involved in my club here in Valencia, and I didn't get to enter the World Championship last year because I'm pretty sure I had COVID or something, but I lost my voice, and so I couldn't actually speak for the competition, and wasn't able to even enter the first stage, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that this year I can. But Darren came on my show, and we were talking about what it takes to be a world champion. And I think I got an email from him today, and it was talking about this kind of thing as well. And I think it's really important, and it's often what people don't really want to hear. People will say, I want to win the world championship, or I want to do a TED talk, or I want to be a successful podcaster, or I want to have a top online course. It's like, well, why do you want that? Do you want the accolades? Do you want the recognition? Is that primarily what it's about? And if you do, are you actually prepared to work for it? Because I see a lot of people who say they want these things and aren't really prepared to put in the time and the effort to make it happen, which is what he was talking about in this email. And I completely agree with him that most people are not willing to give what it really takes. And it's the message we don't want to hear. We like the sound that get rich quick schemes sound appealing because you can get rich quick and it doesn't seem like too much effort. But that should be the warning sign straight away of like, that's not going to happen. But there's going to be some people who get rich from get rich quick schemes, but generally not the people who are buying into them, usually the people who are selling them. And so this is it's just an important thing to know for yourself, that there is no easy path to success in terms of getting yourself known or developing. It really does take a commitment to push through. Look at it this way: if it was easy, everyone would have it. Everyone would be able to do it and be out there speaking and winning awards. And the reason that not everyone is doing that is because it's tough. It takes a lot of work. And although many people will say they're willing to start down that journey, often when the going gets tough, and if their reason for doing it is maybe a bit just selfish or egotistical, that's often not enough to push you through. Now, I'm not judging anyone's reasons for doing stuff, although maybe a little bit, but what I am saying is, if you don't have a strong enough reason to push through that stuff, then you're actually going to find you'll probably give up. You'll look for the next opportunity, or the next easy win. And life isn't about easy wins here. So it really does take some effort, and being willing to be train yourself, to put in the time it takes to practice and do things. So if you're looking to actually be one of those people who helps everyone get over their Zoom fatigue by delivering more engaging and exciting presentations, holding yourself better on camera. I mean, even just smiling more when you're on camera makes a huge difference to what you're delivering. And so many people aren't even doing that. No, but there are so many moving parts to this, and so many elements of what we do. And even I'm a student just as much as anyone else. Even though I have experience and I've learned a lot on this journey, there's still so much I don't know, and still learning myself. And also, I'm out there teaching and helping other people as well. Like at the moment, I'm developing a coaching program with a 10-week course that is going to be that I'm going to start offering to people, which is going to be called Virtual Influence, which is really about being able to come on to a course or a workshop or a Zoom meeting or presentation and be able to deliver your content with a bit of pizzazz, with a bit of energy. That one thing's for sure, if you want your audience to feel a certain way, whether they're watching you on camera or live in person, you really have to work on your energy and putting yourself into the energy level that you want your audience to get into as well. You have to lead the way for them. Otherwise, it's going to be flat. Or if you guide it too hard, it's potentially going to be an overload for people, especially people who are very sort of laid back, relaxed children and prefer information at a slower pace and a bit more chilled. You have to find the right mix. And it's going to be the right mix for you. So it might be that you're a bit more on the side of the calm and relaxed, which I probably am. Or it might be that you're a bit more on the side of someone who's like great energy, but doesn't overload with it as well. You just get a sense that they have really strong energy and really good connection. Someone like my friend Cindy, who is perfect for that. Like, she's a really high energy person, but she doesn't overload people with it, and is great to watch, just super entertaining. So that's where you have to find that your authenticity, what actually fits best for you. If you're more introverted, you're far more likely, and to be honest, most people who go into public speaking and presenting online and things like that actually are more introverted more often than not. And so whilst you will encounter the extroverts, and often it's easier for them to put themselves out there, the majority of people seem to fall more on the introvert side. And that is where you will generally find the lower energy performances, the lower energy deliveries, where people need to work on stepping that up. So that's what my program is partly designed to help people do. Get the energy up, get the engagement up, work with the tools, make your presentations a little bit more interesting and exciting for people, make your courses a bit more engaging, make your Zoom meetings more interesting, deliver a bit more charisma, put some emotion into what you're doing for yourself. Use metaphors, use information in ways that people may not be used to or familiar with, that actually wake them up a bit and get them more involved and interactive with what you're doing as well, and create events, online events and workshops and trainings that really do engage people and make people feel great whilst they're there. And we'll say edutain. They educate and entertain at the same time, because if you're going to be in this world, that's where you have to be. You have to be edutaining people. And I know it's a made-up word. It's been around for a while. I don't know if it's made it into any dictionaries yet. Maybe someone could let me know. But edutaining people, informing them and educating them. The reality is that people who are in this field of online presentation and online training and courses have to be able to deliver that. And this field sits at really a very ideal axis of entertainment and information education. And so it lies in between these two. And the reality is that regardless of everything that's going on in the world, these are areas that are still growing and are continuing and probably going to be even more relevant as we go into the future. If you've ever read Andres Oppenheimer's book, The Robots Are Coming, he says that these are going to be still the biggest growth areas that people have to be able to have these engaging, entertaining, speaking, and educating skills. So you either need to be in entertainment, in information, or somewhere in between them. And I think that public speaking presentation sits perfectly between those two, which means you have to think of yourself as being an educator and an entertainer at the same time. It's not either or. So if that sounds good to you, if you want to know a bit more about what I'm working on with the Virtual Influence Program, I say it's not fully completed yet to be able to advertise it, but I am getting interest from people who I've been talking to about it. So if you want to know more about that, drop me a line. You can email me, john@presentinfluence.com. Come and check out the Facebook group as well. So look up Speaking Influence on Facebook. You'll find that's my Facebook group. Ask a few questions, but I'll let you in probably. And come and connect there. You'll see what I'm doing, what I'm working on. You'll get the first bits of information and rollout of my courses and programs. And we'll talk more about virtual influence and being more engaging online. And certainly we'll carry on that conversation into the future as well. Okay, I'm not going to rabbit on too much today. If you've been tuning in live, thanks for joining me. And if you're on the replay, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know about Zoom fatigue. Let me know if you're interested to know more about virtual influence. Just type influence into the chat box, and I will send you information of the course and what I have so far. And so we can talk about start dates and things like that if you want to in the future. But just drop the word influence into the chat box, and I'll send you the information I've got right now. So I'm going to wrap up here, and I'll be back next week with some more daily presents and more podcasts as well. New Speaking of Influence episode out later today with the comedian Stephen Allen, who some of you may have seen if you've ever watched BBC's MASH report. He's been a regular on that for some time. And my episode that was released on Monday with Simon Lancaster, political speechwriter, professional speaker, TEDx speaker, very incredible guy, has become my highest downloaded episode in just since Monday. Since releasing that episode on Monday is now my highest downloaded episode, which is incredible. It was a great episode. Go and check that out. Speaking of influence, look up the podcast, and I'll try and pop a link into the chat box for people as well, for anyone who wants to watch and see that show. Look out for the funny interview and chat with Stephen Allen today, and more episodes next week as well. And I'll see you live again next week. Have a great weekend, everyone. Take care.